Good evening, ladies. Give me just a moment here. I had to reboot my computer, so give me just a minute and we'll kick off the net, AC4YL. Good evening, ladies. We'd like to welcome you all to the net control for this evening's net. We meet every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the YLs you know to join us. We ask that only YLs or licensed young lady ham radio operators check in and participate. Radio, help each other improve our operating knowledge and skills, and have fun. For more ham fun between weekly nets, during the net, be sure to join us in the NFARL Do Drop In chat room by opening any web browser and going to nfarl.dodropin.org. Just put your name / call sign in the box and click log in. YLs who would like to check in, give us your call sign, name, and current location. And don't forget that there is a 3 to 4 second delay when transmitting through Echolink. This is Catherine, AC4YL. This is AC4YL here. I'm not sure if my last transmission got through or not. Let me see. Ann, KC9YL. Are you able to hear me okay?
Hey, Catherine. Yeah, I can hear you a little better now. It just kind of keep cutting in and cutting out. I'd hear you for maybe about 5-6 seconds, and then it would cut out a second. So hopefully whatever that was got out of its system, and I can hear you well. It's just that we were just kind of dropping here and there.
Victor Alpha 3, Whiskey Hotel Uniform, Carroll, Hamilton, Ontario.
Whiskey Alpha 4, Yankee Lima, Dawn, Hudson, Florida.
KC1EEO, Brenda, Connecticut.
Kilo Papa 4, Mike Delta Carroll, near Sacramento, California.
It's Rachel, 26AMY in the UK.
Bravo, Brenda, Mount Clemens, Michigan.
Okay, fantastic. Well, hopefully audio is better now. So so far, go ahead and Ann, I went ahead and put you in the in the log here. Casey Non-YL is here with us, and she's out of Wisconsin. So good evening, Ann. Carol VA3WHU joining us from Ontario, Canada this evening. Dawn WA4YL joining us from Florida. Good evening. Brenda KC1EEO checking in from Connecticut, and Carol KP4MD joining us from California this evening. Rachel G6AMY joining us from the UK this morning for her, so good morning, Rachel. And Brenda KD8SGB joining us from Michigan. Okay, I think we might have a few more YLs, so if you would like to check in, please call now. Okay, not hearing anyone else, so very good. We'll go a few more folks in just a bit. Perhaps some are having some Echolink trouble, and of course, that's not new. We often have Echolink trouble, including myself this evening. So let's see. Let me pause for a reset here real quick. Okay, not sure if somebody's trying to key up to check in on the NF4GA repeater, but if you are, you have no audio. So here you keying up and then nothing and then unkey. So not sure. You may want to check your mic connections if there's somebody trying to check in. So with that, I see Nisi, I believe, is also here with us. So good evening to you, KA1U. And Nisi is up in Massachusetts, so very good. So what I thought we'd do this evening is catch up a little bit. The YLOM contest being one of them, and lots of cool happening over the last week. So would love to hear from you all. If you have anything you've been up to in ham radio over the past week, we'd love to hear what you've been doing and what's new. So if you have something you'd like to share with the group, please call now, AC4YL. Okay, well then, guess not too many people played radio. We're having some Echolink trouble. So this past weekend, of course, was Hamcation. So had a blast. Was able to go down with Melanie. We traveled together and went on down to Hamcation this past weekend and had a lot of fun. Got to see a lot of folks and meet some new folks. And had a very successful forum. A little bit of technical difficulty on the front end, but was able to get that corrected. And had probably one of the largest groups we've had thus far. So a very successful event. And it was very nice of Gary KN4AQ to come up to us before the forum and invite us over to do a little interview with Ham Radio Now, and Dawn with us, and we had a lot of fun. Went over there after the forum, and had a great time. Got to see Katie, WY7YL, and got to hang out with some friends. Got to see Andrea, K2EZ, and hang out with her a little bit, and got to see a lot of folks that we don't get to see as often as we'd like to. So it was great to catch up and see some folks, some OMs alike. Got to pop over to Alpha Antenna and have a nice visit with Steve for a little while, and we had a great time. So a lot of fun, and did a little shopping. Didn't buy a whole lot, but probably one of the best things that Melanie and I were able to get while we were down there is an antenna from Alpha. So we're looking forward to playing with that, with portable. So sure, let me see. Can somebody come back and give me a report on my audio? Hopefully you guys are able to copy okay.
Yeah, the audio's fine with me, Catherine. So yeah, it's pretty good now.
Okay, thanks so much, Rachel. Appreciate it. Just want to make sure, because it's kind of funny. Always makes me think of sometimes on the repeater when somebody is setting out their call and they're asking how their audio is, and you're like, well, you're hard to copy, very scratchy, and somebody comes back and gives a long transmission. But don't want to be one of those doing that. So very good. Thanks, Rachel, for that. So anyway, let's open it back up to the group here. That's kind of what I've been up to over the past week in ham radio. So what have you gals been up to?
This is KC1EEO in Connecticut, and I just wanted to say that I saw that video that Andrea had posted on the YL Update page, I think, and that Gary had done, and it was so wonderful. And anyone who's listening who hasn't seen that video, it has Dawn and Catherine and Melanie, and you get to see them and actually see what they look like and how they talk, and I just really enjoyed it. It was an hour and a half, and I watched the whole thing in 2 parts, and just wanted to say I really enjoyed that. KC1EO, back to Net Control.
And in case you gals are wondering, I know a lot of you have seen it. Anne's asking where the video was posted. It's on the Facebook while OpNet for Ham Radio Now on Facebook. They also have a YouTube channel as well, so you can search for Ham Radio Now over there, and you can find it. He did several videos or interviews over the Hamcation period. The other one I did happen to catch was the one with the new Huntsville chairman. So there's some good video there. I didn't get a chance to watch any of his other ones yet, but check him out. Gary does a wonderful job. He's great at interviewing folks, and we had a lot of fun doing it. I know Dawn had a good time. And it was great. It was fun because it was fun to hear Dawn's story, and hopefully Dawn will be able to share it with us this evening here in a bit on how we got our start in amateur radio. So would love to hear how you gals got started, and we'll get to that in just a moment. We've had Rosemarie come in and join us, KB4RM. Good evening, Rosemarie, in Texas there. Hope you're doing well. And so, very good. Thanks again, Brenda. Appreciate that. And all of you that commented on the Facebook group. certainly appreciate your kind words there. Again, it was a lot of fun, and it was a great opportunity to reach YLs and NOMs alike, and hopefully, who knows, might spark some interest for some others. And the different stories were quite fun, I thought, too. So looking forward to hearing yours. All right, let's open it back up to the group here. Anyone else want to share with us what you've done over the last week in amateur radio?
KC9YL.
Please, go ahead, Ann.
Yes, thanks, Catherine. The only thing I've been doing in ham radio is my CW Ops class and homework, and I have class again tonight about 8 o'clock. But I just did want to make a quick request. My Sheboygan County Amateur Radio Club is planning on participating in a maker fair in July, and we are kind of a mature group, if you know what I mean. And I know that people that would come to the maker fair would like to see things, especially young kids, that they can see and hear and touch and possibly smell, but we're not going to go there. So kind of looking for if anybody has any ideas for something that we could do that would be a little more interactive than just a bunch of old men and old ladies standing around handing out brochures. So any suggestions would be appreciated. My email is on my QRZ page, so and I'm on Facebook as well. So any way that anybody wants to get a hold of me, I would appreciate it. Thank you, KC9YL.
Okay, very good, Ann. Well, we've participated in the Maker Fair here in Georgia with North Fulton Amateur Radio League and Gwinnett Amateur Radio Society, and a couple other clubs have gotten together and have a nice big booth for Maker Fair. And one of the things they did was put together what they call a Blinky kit. And that's one of the fun activities that they do, and it really gets folks engaged, young and old alike. And I can see if I can get some information on that for you. I'm not sure, what you guys are looking to do, but certainly I can reach out there. You may want to have perhaps a CW key and an oscillator or two. That's a lot of fun to get folks interacting, at least with Morse code as well. So that might be another fun activity. And I'll see what I can find on the kit builds for you. They're really inexpensive little Blinky boards, but they're a lot of fun to do. And perhaps that might be an activity that you can do. Those are the two that come right off the top of my head that I can think of, but certainly I can ask around for some other ideas to the club as well and see what I can find for you. Anybody else have any ideas off the top of their head for Ann that you'd like to share with us? Perhaps something that you or your club have done at a Maker Fair or an event similar to that?
Well, just in time. Kilo Alpha 1, United Lima, November. Tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I'm going to, so I went to a hardware store one day and I saw the Girl Scouts out there selling cookies. I really didn't want the cookies, but I wanted to talk to them about Morse code. And this was about a month ago, and I gave the troop leader my information, and supposedly tomorrow they're supposed to be teaching detective work, how to decode cryptic messages. So I'm going to show them a 10-minute video on a couple of things. Kids involved with ham radio. Another one with kids talking to the satellites. And I'll email all these to you, but the one thing that really catches them is I printed out the the International Morse Code. I'm going to give each one of them a page. I'm going to bring a couple of keys with a speaker on it and let them key there. I don't want to take longer than 30 minutes for the whole thing because they'll start losing interest. And so for 20 minutes, I'm planning on giving them the keys and giving them the sheet with the codes and let them key their name, and then I'll give them a couple of sentences to key. So I'm told that from the makers and I don't know, lots of groups, that's the one thing that the kids really like to do is to key their name and key a couple of other things. K1ULM back to net.
Okay, fantastic, Nisi. Yeah, that tends to be a quite a successful thing to do and inexpensive because most folks in a club have a key and an oscillator. So, and that might be something, that might be your winning ticket. And Nisi brought up a good point. If you can print out some of the International Morse Code sheets, I know our club shrunk it down to a little flyer-like size that they can take with them, but they can have them, have some on the table with you. And it can be, they can do their name, but you can also send words back and forth, and they can look at that sheet and try to figure out, the word that is sent. So it can be fun both ways. So they can also send something, perhaps maybe have a theme, maybe a color, for example, and somebody sends a color in code, and they have to decipher that and what that was sent, and do the same back, and have a lot of fun experimenting and learning that. That can be very interactive, and it gives them a piece, an intro. Another thing you might want to do is, I mentioned the Blinky kits, but I don't know if you guys can set up a small station. I don't know what the layout is like at Maker Faire, but perhaps have if you've got a mobile radio and a small antenna that you can set up there, portable antenna, that might be another thing to help let them make some cues with some other folks. That really isn't exactly in the theme of Maker, but it does introduce them to amateur radio and perhaps show them the detail of the antenna. Perhaps it's one that a club member built and can talk about how they put the antenna together. So that might bring in some of the Maker piece to it. As well, and just something else there. So thanks, Nisi. Great comments, and it's great to get the Girl Scouts involved. And Nisi brings out a good point. If you see Girl Scouts at local retail locations, you can certainly take the opportunity to talk to them and about amateur radio, and perhaps about the radio badge, communication badge. Perhaps see if they're getting involved in doing anything toward earning that. Okay, let me open it back up to the group. Any other suggestions for Ann, or what you'd like to tell us what you've done in the last week in amateur radio?
And to RJ.
Please, go ahead, Rhea. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. I called this a little bit late because I signed on late and wanted to find out stuff about the Maker Faire. I know Joe Eisenberg, K0NEB, who is like the kit guru, and a good friend of mine. He's always looking to do a live kit build. So if you need him to come and help out, he's more than willing. If he's at a particular Hamfest, but it depends on his availability and travel. So he's offered me to do that a few places. So that's pretty good. Back to you and to RJ.
Okay, cool. Great suggestion, Rhea. Very good. Awesome. So anybody else have any other suggestions for Ann on what she can do, activities for getting people involved at the Maker Faire? that would be great. Or if you'd like to tell us what you've been up to in amateur radio over the last week, please come back with your call. AC4YL here.
Whiskey Alpha 7 Alpha Lima.
Please, go ahead, Alita.
Good evening. My life has calmed down a little bit. Not much, but some. I guess from Groundhog Day till probably the end of March, I'm teaching a technician class at our local EOC, and I have 10 students. So I've been kind of busy teaching the ARRL program book, and broke it down into different chapters, and that's what I've been doing with ham radio lately. It's been a lot of work, but it's good to refresh your brain. WA7AL.
Okay, very good, Alita. Thank you so much, and that's great. Yeah, putting together and working a technician class, I'm sure can be quite challenging, but very good. And I don't know if you can certainly reach out to Margaret, and if she runs a YL technician class with some folks out there in Washington, she may have some good suggestions for you as well. But very good. That's awesome. It's great to help others get their license, and then also give them a good intro and get them on the air too as quickly as possible so that they can experience it firsthand. So awesome, Alita. I'm glad you made it this evening. It's great to hear you. I heard someone try to come in on the NF4GA repeater, but I didn't quite copy your call. So the YL who is on the North Fulton repeater, if you'd like to come back with your call sign, please go ahead.
I just wanted to check in with y'all, which I never get an opportunity to do. Juliet 4, India Hotel Lima, KJ4 IHL. This is Marie in Atlanta. Over.
Okay, very good, Marie. I've got KJ4IHL. Well, it's good to hear you this evening, and glad you were able to make it in. So it's wonderful to hear you, and it sounds like you're coming in on RF there through radio. So very good, and I understand you're near Atlanta. So glad to have you with us, and hopefully you're able to make it with us. This net happens every Thursday evening at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. You can connect with us through the Echolink Alara conference if you're familiar with Echolink. If not, you can download the app and put it on your iPhone. You can put it on your Android there. And if you need any help with anybody, any YL that's listening on RF through either the GMARC repeater or the NF4GA repeater, links and nodes connected in here. If you do need any help getting Echolink set up, please feel free to email me, ac4yl@arrl.net, and I'll be happy to help you, or Melanie, ag4yl@arrl.net. You can also pop into the YL OpNet Facebook group and post to help you with that. Okay, very good. Let's open it back up to the group here. Anybody else want to tell us what you've been up to in ham radio over the last week?
This is WA4YL.
Well, very good. Please go ahead, Dawn.
Well, this week in ham radio, I haven't been doing much on radio because my antenna's down, and so I've been using that time to practice my CW, using a CW trainer connected to a 9-volt battery, connected to a Venture Kia, and it seems to be working well for me. And if you have that kind of setup and you want to learn CW, that's the way to go. WA4YL, back to net control.
All right. Well, awesome, Dawn. Glad that you were able to get that CW trainer working and pick up the pieces that you needed for that. And that's exciting and great for you to be able to spend time doing that. I know you're going to get your antenna sent off and get that swapped out with them, and got you some new coax down there at Hamcation too. So I'm sure you're excited to get that all back up and in working order. So we look forward to hearing from you when you're able to get that back up and going soon. That's exciting stuff. So it was great seeing you and hanging out with you at Hamcation as always, Dawn. And so we look forward to next year, and who knows, maybe and before then we'll see what happens. So, all right, very good. Anybody else have anything you'd like to share you've been up to in ham radio?
KC1EEO, and I was the net control a week ago for my local UHF net. I had jumped in 2 weeks before that in an emergency, but 2 weeks ago I was the official net control, and I found it very, very challenging. And I know I made a lot of mistakes, and what I found hardest was trying to respond to each person who checked in and say something about what they said, because I didn't always understand what they said, and so it was kind of hard. And my hat is off to you, Catherine, in that you are able to do that so well, and I'm still learning from you how to do that. So that was my experience for last week. Back to net control.
Well, thank you very much, Brenda, and I have to say I think it's wonderful that you are jumping in with both feet there and taking the reins, so to speak, and volunteering to do that, because that's how you get better at something, is you practice it. And if you are unsure of that, I'm sure you can ask Ann, KC9YL, about learning CW, and any of the other YLs here that are learning CW is you just have to practice. That's what it takes. And so you keep doing it, Brenda, and you'll get more and more comfortable. I think a lot of it also has to do with a comfort level. Because it's funny, I started this net back in 2014, and you know, I have recordings of some of the first nets, and I almost hate going back and listening to them as a person. And so I encourage you, if you have a way to record the net, you know, do that, and you know, just save it, put it away for a while, and come back after you've been doing it for 6 months or even 3 months, and you'll notice a difference, and you'll see how your comfort level got a little better, and you'll learn a lot too. It's a great way to learn. I've learned so much just from having you gals here with on the net here and sharing your experience and your knowledge and your skills with the group, and that's what makes it fun. We can help each other learn new things and enjoy doing it. So thanks for your kind words, Brenda, and thank you for running a net as well and experiencing that. And now you can share your experiences with other people as well. Okay, anybody else want to tell us what you've been up to in ham radio over the last week?
This is Victor Echo 4, Papa Echo Hotel. I have a weekly schedule on a DMR radio Saturday mornings at 9 Winnipeg time. I'm not too sure what that is in UTC. Anyway, we started off with 2 people, a lady in Israel and myself, and we've now gone up to a whole number of 5. 20 meters has been very disappointing. Back to net control.
All right, very good, Patricia. Well, welcome to the net this evening. We're glad to have you with us as well, and so that's great. It's fun. You know, when the bands kind of suck, as they do right now, you start finding other ways to play radio. Some are playing digital, FT8. Some are learning CW and playing Morse code because you can get further distances on lower power, even in semi good conditions, so you have a better shot at that. And you know, others are utilizing Echolink and repeaters and other interlinking systems to be able to play radio. So that's great, and it gives us all an opportunity to learn other modes to do just that. So very good. Thanks so much, Pat, for coming in. We're glad to have you with us this evening as well. Okay. Anybody else have any comments on what you've been doing in ham radio over the last week? And if not, we'll go on into giving everybody an opportunity to share how you got started in ham radio. So anything else for over the last week? Okay, not hearing anyone. So let's see, do we have any YLs or young lady ham radio operators who have joined us who have not had an opportunity to do so? We'd like to give you a chance to do that. So just give us your call sign, your current location, if you have not checked in yet this evening.
Hey, this is KN4FMP, Kilo November 4, Foxtrot Mike Papa. My name is Christy, Kilo Romeo India Sierra Tango Yankee. I am in Pace, Florida. This is my first check-in here. I've been a ham since August. So I'm still kind of new at this and still kind of learning the ropes and everything. But finally remembered that there was a net tonight on this Echolink channel, so I figured I'd try to jump in and see what I could hear and maybe even say hey to everybody. So, hey, and I'll let it go back to net.
All right. Well, fantastic, Christy. We'd like to welcome you to the group here in this evening, and it's great to have you with us. And if you haven't already, you can my call sign on QRZ AC4YL, and at the top of my bio page is the link to the Facebook group and the YouTube channel. If you haven't already requested to join the group on Facebook, encourage you to do that. You can post questions there. It's a closed group. Women amateur radio operators are allowed into the Facebook group. Kind of give everybody a nice space for us to chat with each other about things we discuss on the net, and any ham radio questions or experiences or operating events or anything that you wish to share with the group, you can do that there. I encourage you to hop over there. I try to post a net reminder in the events for Thursday to kind of help everybody remember. So thanks so much, Christy, for joining us this evening. We are so glad to have you here, and congratulations on getting your license. So if there's anything that we can do here to help you, we're here to encourage you and answer questions that you may have. And for all the YLs here, don't be afraid to ask whatever questions you have, even if they seem minor to you. If they're a question that's been nagging you, please ask the group. We're all friendly and happy to help you here on the net. That's what we're here for. So with that, I know Ann, KC9YL, has a CW Ops class in about 15 minutes. So we're just going to go down the check-in list this evening and give you all a chance to give us your brief story on how you got started in amateur radio, what inspired you to become an amateur radio operator, so we'd like to give you a chance to share that with the group. So let's go to Ann first, KC9YL. What got you started in amateur radio?
Thank you, Catherine, and I will try to make it quick. Actually, what got my start in ham radio is the UP200 sled dog race, which should be kicking off sometime tomorrow evening. The Marquette Repeater Association up in Marquette, Michigan, has a repeater that they stream the audio online 24/7, and they had the volunteer ham operators that were checking along the race, along the different checkpoints, were checking in and out on the repeater so you could listen to the audio. They had the link posted on their website as well as Facebook. And I just was kind of intrigued by that and was talking to one of the operators, who happens to be the brother of a very dear friend of mine. And he said, Ann, you should get your ham radio license. And I said, Mike, you are out of your mind. It's expensive. It's huge. You have to have a license, and I have no idea what any of this is about. And he said that 9-year-olds can pass the test. You can buy a radio for less than $100 that fits in your pocket. And I thought ham radio is certainly not what I pictured it was. And I picked up a book, Now You're Talking, the next day. Within 3 months, I had my license, and that was how it all began. Back to you, KC9YL. And the full story is on my QRZ page. Back to net.
Well, that's awesome, Ann. What a great story. So that makes it fun. That's great. So glad to hear it. We'll have to check out your QRZ page. So for those of you that are newer that may not be familiar with what that is, open any web browser and go to QRZ.com, or the letters QRZ.com, QRZ.com. And in the search box, you can type in Ann's call sign, KC9YL, and that will pull up her bio. In fact, you can type any of the call signs of any ham radio operator. Now, some post information to their bio, and you can do the same. You can create a bio and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got started in ham radio, or the different activities that you like to participate in with amateur radio. Encourage you to also put an email address there too, and you can do, you can have one for free through any of the major You can set up a free Gmail email account. A lot of folks use their call sign at whatever provider they choose, or some semblance of. If their call sign's too short, they might have to add a little bit to it. If you are an ARRL member, you can also set up a forwarding email address, which means you tell ARRL through your account information what email you would like them to forward your email sent to your call sign at arrl.net, and they will go to whatever email that you put in there as well. And you can put your ARRL email address on your QRZ page. But encourage you, if you haven't checked it out, check it out. You can set up your own account. It's free, and please put a bio on there so that folks that work you on the radio can find out a little bit more about you. So encourage you to do that. Okay, thanks so much, Ann. Great to hear your story. Let's go to Carol, VA3WHU. Carol, what got you started in amateur radio?
Victor Alpha 3, Whiskey Hotel Uniform. What got me started? Well, Brian got his license, Victor Alpha 3, Bravo Golf November, in 2015. So I thought, well, if he can do it, I can do it. So I got the book, and in September of 2015, I started to study, and I studied by myself. I had a little pocket book, and I wrote down all the questions that I actually downloaded the Canadian test online. Canadian Innovation and Technology is something like that. It's the website. They've changed the name of it since I got my license. And I studied for 6 months solid. Every minute I could get, I went on my computer or on my iPad, and I downloaded the test, and I questioned myself. And then on the weekend, Brian helped me a lot with going over, different things about the questions. And I decided that I was ready, that I was going to take the exam. So in May of 2016, I met with one of the gentlemen that works for Industry Canada, and he printed off the test for me, and we met at a neutral location, and I got my license. I was a little bit nervous about a few of the questions, because on the I'd seen questions there that I'd never studied for. And I thought, well, that's not right. How does this happen? I've never seen this question before. And apparently they can do that. They can change up some of the questions and put some of them in. Anyway, I got 87%, which was a pass mark. That's your amateur radio license with honors. Brian got 89, so he beat me by 2 points anyway. So I'm happy. All right, Katie. All right. So I'm happy to have my license now, and I'm enjoying it. Burlington, in the city of, Burlington Amateur Radio Club has a Hamfest this Saturday. So the weather's picked up here in Ontario. We had above zero temperatures today, and the snow's kind of disappearing a bit. So off to the Burlington Amateur Radio Club this weekend. Over.
Okay, very good, Carol. Well, that's great. So great to hear your story as well. And I'd say 87 is quite respectable, right up there. So very good. And we're glad to have you with us as well, Carol. So great to hear your story. And yeah, those cats, boy, when they want attention, they're going to get it. So very good. And KC9YL has to get ready for her class in about 8 minutes. So 33, Ann. We will catch you hopefully next week. All right, very good. So again, Carol, thank you so much for coming back with your story. It's great to hear that account, and hope you have a blast this weekend at the Hamfest. Have a good time, and sounds like you guys are having a heat wave hitting above freezing temps. So great to hear. Dawn's story on the interview, but Dawn, why don't you come back in for those that haven't been able to watch or haven't seen it yet. Dawn, why don't you tell us how you got started in amateur radio? WA4YL, AC4YL with the group.
Good evening, everyone. This is WA4YL. I got my start in ham radio. It all started when I went to a Hurricane Expo here in my town of Newport Richey. And I met with Steve Jervey, who is the NBC newscaster for my area in Tampa. And he told me about Skywarn, and I went to a Skywarn class that was conducted at an amateur radio club. I wrote an email to a random email, and I was invited to my local ham radio club. And I joined the club and studied for my test, took the test, failed the first time, got it the second time for technician. 6 months after that, I got my general, and then a year and a half after that, I got extra, and it all started in 2010. And I am very active with DX, and I've gotten 98 countries logged in my logbook. Back to net control.
All right, Dawn. Well, fantastic. Great to hear your story as well. It's lots of fun, and so glad that you were able to tell us that story, because it's it's unusual. It's different. So Dawn picked up her interest in ham radio through a Skywarn class. So that's a lot of fun and different. So it's nice to hear everyone's unique story on their start. Let's find out from Brenda, KC1EEO. Brenda, how'd you get interested in ham radio? Okay, hopefully I'm getting out. Boy, my Echolink is acting very strange. I think it's my internet. Let's try this again. Hopefully I'm getting out now. Brenda, KC1EEO, why don't you come back and tell us how you got your start in amateur radio?
Hi, this is Brenda, KC1EEO. I actually thought I was transmitting. I was talking. All right, I got my start in amateur radio through my OM, which I have read many times on Facebook about these women who only get their starts from their OM and they aren't really into it. So I wanted to say in my defense that I always loved math, and I wanted to major in it actually in college. I didn't, because I was just so distracted in college and I just screwed up everything. And you can't really kind of fake math, so I ended up not majoring in it. But I love math, and I do enjoy the actual computations that are involved when I'm studying. Right now I'm studying for the extra. I have the tech, which I got in 2015, and last year I got the general. But it was because of my OM that he's been in radio since he was a teenager, and then he got out of it because he got distracted by life, and then he got back into it later years. And I wasn't back with him. We had been together and then we broke up, and we got back together years later. And he said, no, he would like me to look into this radio that he's really into. And I said, oh, well, what's that? I don't know, maybe. And then I realized that, wow, I can use math in this. This is good. So, and then I found out that I could talk to people, and I could meet people, and I could join these clubs and have breakfast with these wonderful radio groups, and I just found out a whole mess of stuff about it that was extremely fascinating. But at first, I had no idea what he was suggesting, none whatsoever. It was all due to him, and he's an engineer, and he knows a lot about electronics, and he's taught me a whole lot about it. And so my pathway was through IOM. Back to net control.
All right, very good, Brenda. Well, thanks so much for coming in and telling us your story. That's a lot of fun, and sounds like you guys are meant to be, right? That's fantastic. And it's great to be able to share ham radio with your partner there, because it makes a difference when you have something else that you guys can have in common and have fun, and you can play radio together, or you can compete too for fun, right? So so glad to have you here with us, Brenda, and thanks so much for coming in and telling us your story as well. It's great to hear you. Carol, I know, had to step away. I think she had a webinar she had to go to, so maybe we'll catch KP4MD another time about how she got started in amateur radio. So we'll move on to Rachel, G6AMY. Rachel, how'd you get started in ham radio? It might just be me, but I'm not copying anything. Rachel, G6AMY, if you're there. She may have disconnected and reconnected, I'm not sure. So, Rachel, if you're there, G6AMY, if you can come back and would like to tell us how you got started in amateur radio, we'd love to hear.
Okay, I'm here. I don't know what happened then. I started talking, that it suddenly went on me. It keeps dropping out, this end. There it goes. I was at a friend's house one evening, and the OM was talking to a friend of his on the radio, on the telephone, and was talking about first IFs and what have you, and you could see a frowned look on my face, and he said it would pay you to learn something about radio. So I got home and sorted out a radio magazine, had a look through it, and found that a local college to where I worked was running evening course for electronics. So I thought, this might be what I'm looking for. So I enrolled at the college, and the rest is history. I passed the radio amateur examination, as it was known over here in those days, and I got my licence. That was in February 1981, G6AMY.
Okay, very good, Rachel. Well, excuse me, thanks so much for coming in and telling us your story as well, and that's pretty cool. It's nice that you guys actually had a class in college, evening class offering that. That's a lot of fun. I know that a lot of folks are working on getting more amateur radio into the classroom here as well, so that's a lot of fun and great, and you've been a ham for a little while then there, Rachel. So very good. Glad to hear your story, and thanks so much for being here with us. We're so glad that you're able to make it, and glad that you're feeling well enough to be here. I know you haven't been feeling well, So we're glad you're here, and I don't think Jenny was able to make it this evening, and I think she's been under the weather as well. So if you gals are able to pass her a little note through the Facebook group or through the chat. I think there's a Facebook chat that a lot of the gals are on. I wish I had more time, but I don't have enough time to play with that. But if you can, send Jenny a little hello note and wish her well too. I think she's been under the weather. So I have not seen Margaret or Ann on this evening, so I don't know if there's an HFnet going on this evening. But if you gals wanted to check, you can certainly check over on 14.288 and see if there are any YLs over there. But I haven't seen Margaret or Ann on this evening, so I don't know if they are running one or not. So we will continue here. We've got about another 30 minutes. So let's go to Brenda in Michigan. Brenda, if you're around and able to get on, KD8SGB would love to hear how you got started in ham radio. AC4YL with the net. Okay, not copying Brenda there. Maybe she had to step away. So we'll try her again maybe next week. Nisi, I think, had to go. So B4RM would love to hear how you got started in ham radio. Okay, not hearing Rosemary. Rita, into RJ. If you're around, would you come back and tell us how you got started in ham radio? Into RJ, AC4YL with the group.
Okay, N2RJ here. Well, so how I got started. My dad was a shortwave listener when I was about 4 to 5 years old, and I picked up from him about tuning on to the radio, and we had a shortwave radio that we listened to the BBC World Service and Voice of America. And that was how I first learned about radio. Let's pause for reset. Okay, yeah, and that was all well and good, and I also learned about computers and electronics from him. Computers, he bought a Commodore 64 computer for us, and I learned a lot of things from him about that, so I gained that kind of tech interest. And then when I was in school, in secondary school, I met up with a teacher. His name is Mr. Limac, call sign 9Y4 Alpha Lima. He was a ham, and he elmered many people. So I pretty much got into it from that. And later on, he encouraged me to get my license, and he demonstrated amateur radio to a lot of people, and I got my license. And then I began to also teach license classes. And I met up with a bunch of other people who were into different aspects of amateur radio. I learned about VHF, UHF operation. I learned about HF. I learned about DXing. I learned about, I actually didn't learn about contesting much until I came to the United States. We also used to build TV antennas too, because in Trinidad we had one TV station and the new TV stations were coming up, and everybody had an antenna for one TV station, so we'd build them out of scraps of wire, of aluminum wire left by the power company, and to get good reception. And I built a log periodic, and my dad saw that and he was like, "What is that? That thing looks like a spider." Okay, I put it up and I had it connected to the TV and it worked. So I applied my knowledge from ham radio, and that's how I got started. As far as I got started with DX and contesting. So in New York City, when I moved here in the late 90s, 2000, I met up with a lot of Aries and Races people and got into public service events. One of the premier public service events we have in New York, so before I moved to New Jersey, was the New York City Marathon. And the New York City Marathon communications was handled by none other than former ARRL First Vice President Steve Mendelson, W2ML. Steve is he is one of the best Elmers I've ever encountered in amateur radio. So Steve, when I moved to Jersey, Steve asked, are you in any clubs? And he said, why don't you join us in the North Jersey DX Association? So I joined in the North Jersey DX Association, and one of the requirements for that club was to obtain the DXCC. So I figured, you know what, I'll work 100 countries and obtain my DXCC, and I'll be in the club, and I'll be able to look at cards and sort cards, and because I like beautiful QSL cards. And I did that, and then DX became more of an addiction. As far as contesting goes, I did contesting casually, and then I began to just get more serious and serious into it. And then one of my friends, Peter W2IRT, he told me that some guys from the contest club were noticing my scores, and they asked if I could come join them. So I joined them, and I learned from a lot of Elmers about contesting. I've just been getting better and better through their advice and also observing them. I've been working with some great Elmers. Pause for reset. Okay, and some of the Elmers I've worked with are John Crivelli, W2GD. If you've ever worked Papa 40 Whiskey, Papa 40 Whiskey in Aruba, you've worked him. John's a good friend of mine. Also, the people who operate Victor 26 Bravo, and then you have Bud Alpha 3 Bravo, and you have Carol N2MM down in South Jersey. So I learned a lot of different things from them, and it was really, really, good. And I pick up things, and now I Elmer people. So the moral of this story is, let me see if I could do a Steve Ballmer impression. It's Elmers, 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 Elmers. Remember when he came on the stage and he began chanting developers, developers, developers? I don't know if anybody saw that. But yeah, the Elmering tradition keeps this stuff alive, and it keeps it going. And you know what? The future generation is the result of good Elmires, and just good mentors, people who are there in this hobby to pass it on. So this is a great hobby. Pass it on. Back to Net and to RJ.
All right, very good, Rhea. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story on how you got started in ham radio, and what a great story that was, and a lot of good takeaways. So, we thank you for all the good information that you share with us here on the net too. I know we learn a lot from you, and it sounds like you've got a great group there where you are to help you along as well. So that's great. Fantastic. So thanks so much, Rhea, for coming in and telling us how you got started, and what a great story. I believe Alita is still with us, WA7AL. Alita, how'd you get started in ham radio?
Oh, good evening. Gosh, it's kind of like a joke. I was raised and born and bred into ham radio. My father was a ham radio operator since he was 16, and my mom got married and got her ham radio license pretty much when I was a toddler. So I guess you could say both of them were heavy into the hobby, and I think that's why. So anything that had to do with the hobby was always inside my dad's ham shack, or he was always building something. So I was always, I guess you could say, naturally absorbing it. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically it. That's what I've been doing. On the other aspect of things, I finally decided to get my license on my own. And that was December of 2016. And January, I got my general, and in April, I got my extra. So I think that's pretty much how fast it went. WA7AL.
Well, fantastic, Alita. Sounds like you didn't waste any time after you got your license and moving on through and upgrading. So, fantastic, great story, and it's fun to hear everybody's unique introduction to ham radio. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it gives us some insight into what has inspired, what inspires different people to become ham radio operators, and perhaps it helps us look for opportunities to reach out and see if we can inspire someone to become a ham radio operator. In fact, Kay Craigie, who is the former president of ARRL, she did a presentation here in Georgia at a Stone Mountain Club meeting, which is the club she used to belong to many years ago when she lived down here in Georgia. And she encouraged everybody to take your HT with you wherever you go, and use it when you have opportunity to, but take it with you, have it visible, and it may strike up a conversation where someone asks you what that is, or are you in police work or emergency service work, or what do you do, or what is that, or why do you have a radio with you? And it gives you an opportunity to talk about amateur radio. And who knows, you never know, you might strike up a conversation with someone and inspire them to study and get their license and become a ham radio operator. So, great story, Alita. Thank you so much for that. Let's see if Pat's still with us, VE4PEH, up there in Manitoba, Canada. Pat, if you're still with us and would like to come back and tell us how you got started in ham radio, we'd love to hear from you. VE4PEH, AC4YL with the group.
This is Victor Echo 4, Papa Hotel. I guess I have a similar story. I was driving my husband around, who is a ham, Victor Echo 4, Papa Hotel, and I didn't have my license, and I was driving him to different ham functions. So I decided, well, I guess it's a good idea to get my license. So he bought me a book, and I opened it and read the first chapter and closed it and gave it back to him. And then I waited a few years, and the Winnipeg Seniors Radio Club was having some classes, so I went for 3 months, twice a week, took my classes. I was the only lady that was in the class, was very outnumbered, wrote my exam. I didn't quite pass. I was 2 points away from passing. So I sort of was very disappointed, and I got Ham Chest Online on the computer, and I went on it every day and rewrote and got myself an 86. So I was very happy. So that means that I have honors. I passed with honors, and it's a great hobby. Retirement is not boring, although Pete sometimes complains that it used to be his hobby. Back to net control.
Okay, very good, Pat. Well, it's great to hear your story, and thank you so much for sharing that. And you know, now it's a hobby that you guys can do together, and so that's awesome. So very good, and you know, it shows some tenacity on your part. You didn't give up. You kept going. You know, 3 months, 2 days a week, and being the only woman in the group, that can be somewhat intimidating, no doubt. But you stuck with it, and we're glad you did, because now we have the pleasure of talking to you and getting to know you here on the net, and we're very, very glad to have you with us. And hopefully you enjoy it and find a nice space where you can hang out with other YLs who have a love for ham radio. So thanks so much, and we're glad to have you with us. Let's see, I know Marie's audio was quite weak earlier, but let's see if we can copy Marie okay. KJ4IHL. If you're still with us and would like to come in and tell us how you got started in ham radio, we'd love to hear from you. Let's see how your audio is first. So if you can just come back and let me know if you can copy me okay, and then we'll make sure that we can copy you. KJ4IHL, AC4YL with the group. Okay, not copying Marie, but maybe we can try her again next week. Maybe she'll make it back in. She may have had to step away, so we'll catch up with her maybe next week. Let's see if Christy is still here with us. KN4FMP. Christy down in Florida, I know you just got your license in August, you mentioned earlier. What got you interested in ham radio, Christy?
Hey, this is KN4FMP, Christy. I actually, funny enough, saw a TV show that had a couple of episodes where the main character talked about ham radio briefly, and it piqued my interest. So I did a little research and found out that ham radio, as you wonderful YLs know, is a great way to communicate when there is a natural disaster. I live in Florida, and more specifically the Panhandle, which is right at the closer to Alabama. I live not far from Mobile, Alabama, but that's actually more so called Hurricane Alley. We tend to get a lot of hurricanes coming through here. And in Florida in general gets a lot of hurricanes normally anyway, but I found that amateur radio was a great way to communicate when cell towers were down and you couldn't use cell phones. And for me, being a Floridian my whole life, I really liked the idea of being able to contact someone or get a hold of someone, you know, either emergency personnel or getting information out to family or friends that we were okay or something was a very big appeal to me. So I ended up telling my OM that I was going to get my ham radio license and we're going to go from there. So I ended up getting it first, and he followed me 2 months later and ended up getting his. But I like to tell everybody that I had it first, and he had to be cool like me, so he got his. So now we are both licensed amateur radio operators, and we are currently working on getting our 10-year-old his ticket so he can become one also. He just got his book, so he's reading it now. But the appeal was the ability to communicate when cell phones were down. But honestly, the community that we've met and we've talked to have just been wonderful, both locally and, you know, national for right now. We don't have anything, and we don't have our generals yet, so we can't really get too far. But you know, just the ham community in general has just been fantastic. So it's been great to get to know everybody and stuff. But with that being said, I will say this is KM4FMP, and back to Net Control. Thank you.
Well, that's awesome, Christy. What a great story, and thanks so much for coming in and sharing it with the group. And again, we're really glad to have you here with us on the net, and congratulations on getting your license. And so glad that you are enjoying amateur radio. And, you know, again, if there's anything that we as a group can do to help you, encourage you, or, you know, share our experiences with you, just let us know. We'd love to do that and learn some things from you too. So that's a beautiful part about ham radio, is we can share all our experiences and the things that we learn through them as we participate in a variety of activities, ham radio related. So fantastic. Thanks so much, Christy. Great to hear you. Susie, I see NHCGM is also with us, and I know she has some mic trouble, and so she typed hers into to the Echolink chat here. But for those of you that can't see it or have missed it, she said that the number one thing she was jealous of her spouse for. So she took the class, and once they found a club, and she got her license. She learned CW. It looks like to pass, I'm going to guess, but didn't really be very active on CW. But she was on 2 meters not long after, and started working local events. And now we know Susie edits and distributes the club newsletter, and I believe she does the tape for the harmonics as well. So very good, Susie. Thanks so much for sharing your story in the chat. And looks like she found a class after her spouse's national service and got her novice in the spring of 1980. So cool. So Susie's been a ham for a little while. Her OM getting his license on the Air Force Base, I think in West Germany in about 1975. So cool, great story there, Susie. Thanks so much for putting that in the chat so we could share it with the group. We certainly appreciated it to have you with us. Let me pause for reset, and then we'll give Rita, NE0DB, an opportunity. Be right back. 1 sec. Okay, very good. Let's go to Rita, NE0DB. Rita's out there in Colorado. We'd like to hear your story, Rita, on how you got started in ham radio.
Well, I don't think that worked. How's the audio? Over?
Sounding good, Rita. It took a minute for things to catch up, I think, on my end, but please go ahead.
Okay, well, let's give this a try. In fact, this weekend will be my first anniversary of having my extra license. I started my license in it was August of 2016. I got my general in September of 2016, and I got my extra a year ago. I guess I'll take that back. I think it must have been. Well, anyway, I got all 3 licenses within 5 months. We'll just put it that way. Same story. O.M. brought home a book from a Hamfest. He said, this is kind of cute. He said the best birthday present you could give me would be get your ham radio license. So I did. I got the tech and the general before his birthday, so he was thrilled with that. And then I thought, well, why stop here? Just get the extra and get it over with. So we're both very active in our local club. In fact, my husband is one of the founding members of our Pueblo West Amateur Radio Club, and we have a little antenna farm out here with a tower, and we've got the Yagi, we've got the Cushcraft R9, and let's see, and a dipole. And then we have 2 separate shafts. I have my own, of course, and he has his own. Of course, we can't be on at the same time, but we take turns. My OM's mostly into DXing now, and really, he's pretty much located everything in the world, so now he's more into, he's into CW quite a bit too. So I'm just still really trying to get used to high frequency. I love that. I get on the radio every day. I do a little contesting. I like doing Parks on the Air and Soda on the Air and those kinds of events, and of course special events. So that's about it. So back to the net. NE0 DB.
All right. Well, awesome, Rita. Thanks so much for coming in and telling us your story too. And you know, it's fun. Everybody has at least somewhat of a unique twist on theirs, and you know, it's great that while you know your OM or you know significant other might kind of prompt you to get interested in amateur radio, it's a whole nother ball game when you start making it your own. You know, once you jump in and start making it your own hobby as well, that's when the fun can really kick in. So thanks, Rita, for sharing your story. And believe it or not, ladies, it's time to close the net. So what I'd like to do, I know we missed some folks. I'd like to catch up with some that had to step away early this week. Perhaps we can catch them next week, like Rosemarie and Brenda out there in Michigan, and Rosemarie, and we ran out of time for Melanie and myself to come in. So we'll try to catch up with all you gals, Marie and Georgia. We'll try again next week and give everybody, the rest of you folks, an opportunity to share your story. Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing yours with the group this evening. It was great to hear everyone. And what we'd like to do now is just see, do we have any other YLs or female ham radio operators who have joined the net and have not had an opportunity to check in and would like to do so? Please call now. Okay, not hearing anyone, so we would like to encourage you all to please visit and request to join the WyoOpNet Facebook group if you're not already a member, and encourage you to post comments, ham events, anything that you have there for the group, questions. Please post over there. We'd also like to take a moment to thank Lauren, KC9ZHV, for live streaming and recording this net and making it available through the WyoOpNet YouTube channel. We would like to also thank Alara for the use of this Echolink conference node, the North Fulton Amateur Radio League for their Do Drop In chat room, and all of you who are linked and listening for your ongoing support of this net, YLs and OMs alike. This is Catherine, AC4YL, closing out the YL OpNet and returning the Alara conference node to normal use. 33 ladies, we'll see y'all next week. Take care.
Thank you very much for running the net, Catherine. Good job. Good night, everybody.
Well, thanks, Rachel, and we're so glad that you're able to make it and that you're feeling better. Take care. We'll see you next week. 33, Rachel, G6AMY, AC4YL.
Yeah, 33, so I'm glad I got there as well. So the voice came back a couple of days ago, and I was quite pleased it did. It meant I was able to come on and join in. Okay, I'm out of here. 33s. I'm going to paradise.
KE7IXI. KE7IXI.
No, I think it's disconnected.
I think it was KE7IXI, AC4YL here. Her name is Catherine. Good evening.
Yes, good evening. This is Judy from Arizona. This is my first time tuning in and listening to you ladies. I know is about to close, but I just thought I'd like to check in, and I will check in again next week.
All right, fantastic. I think this is Judy, I think it was, out in Arizona. Well, good evening, and glad to have you with us. I do see, looks like you're using perhaps your OM's call on here, which is perfectly fine, and I know you've been listening in for a while, so no problem. We got you in the log. We just keep a log of who all checked in, so it's fun to kind of go back and see the different locations that YLs come in and join us with. So glad to have you here with us, Judy, and I hope you enjoyed the net. It's on every Thursday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, which I believe is 5 o'clock for you. I'm not sure where you're located. I know Arizona doesn't follow daylight savings time. You guys don't change your clock, so I think you guys are, I guess it's 6:30 for you now, maybe. But anyway, it's 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday here on the Echolink Alara conference node, and it's always that same time, regardless of time change. So that's fun. But hopefully you can make it back with us on a regular basis. Great to hear you, Judy. Name here is Catherine. Back to you.
Thank you, Catherine. It's really been a pleasure listening to all the stories of the ladies tonight. And I definitely will tune in next Thursday back to net.
Okay, very good, Judy. Well, no problem. Perhaps you can tell us how you got started in ham radio next week on the net as well. I'm going to try and make a note so I can catch up with the gals that we missed this week. So lots of fun, and let's see, you are, looks like you're in Scottsdale. Cool. I think there are some other folks, I think Melanie knows some people in Scottsdale. I don't know if she's near her computer or not, still with us, but AG4YL, she helps me on the net here, and I think I think her mom's out in Scottsdale. So very good. It's glad to have you here, Judy, and so glad you're with us. And yeah, would love to have you come back next week and tell us your story as well. So take care for now, and great to have you and hear you on the radio here. 33, and we'll catch you next week. KE7IXI, AC4YL. I'll be tuning in next week.
Bye for now. K7IXI.